It's been 12 months since acquittal, and so much has passed us by. Such a scattering with evidence, and some blatant flat-out lies. Special new prosector, and Hank Breeden is his name. He is a dirty Boston lawyer, and his arguments are lame. He's trying to squash all of our experts, as he has no case to claim. He should have won an Oscar medal to convince the court he's sane. He can lie without a conscience and keep that smirk upon his face. I bet he wears those silky undies, the ones with that chain-made of lace. And Judge Beverly Academy is so biased for the state, is wading through 100 motions in a rush to seal my fate. So you can bring in Massachusetts, cause we all ain't got no quit. And we all know that the truth is my car is not the thing John hit.
Back to session, you may be seated.
All right, I appreciate the court personnel waiting so that we could have that voir dire. It was helpful. All right, so my rulings are very similar than they were this morning. So first of all, on the Daubert analysis regarding Dr. LaPosata being able to testify as to the dog bite wounds, I find that she is not qualified. I'm not satisfied that the Daubert requirements have been made, specifically not just the experience, but the reliability of the methodology she used and how it was applied. So based on that, she cannot testify to the dog wounds. And I want to take a minute to differentiate this testimony with Dr. Russell's. I found that Dr. Russell was an expert, qualified to testify as to dog bite wounds, mainly from her experience in the ER, coupled with her being an ME. Dr. LaPosata does not have that experience. I found that Dr. Russell's methodology was reasonable and was sufficient, and I found that it was appropriately applied. Remember that Dr. Russell was published in the area here. So regarding pages 10 and 11, all of the text on Dr. LaPosata's report on pages 10 and 11 that start with the injuries on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm are excluded. Now, moving on to the testimony regarding not being consistent with a motor vehicle strike, I find that Dr. LaPosata's opinion on these not being the result of a motor vehicle collision exceed what is within her scope of expertise in some regards, not in all. In some regards, significantly, like I said this morning. So on page 17, that first sentence is in. The second sentence, tail lights are typically made of durable polycarbonate or acrylic plastic. That is out. I know the Commonwealth objected to, but I'm letting in. Mr. O'Keefe's patterned injuries on his right arm do not correspond to injuries that could have been produced by irregular fractured plastic pieces impacting the arm. She cannot say tail light, but she can say that based on her experience. His arm had no tissue bruising from impact. That also comes in. And the next sentence, neither did his skin show any array of irregular, unpredictable, randomly scattered cuts and scrapes at various angles and depths. That's within her realm of expertise as a medical examiner. The next page, though, I may have said this morning that first sentence, importantly, in review of that and review of the Tompkins case, that first sentence stays out because to me, it seems like that sentence depends on a biomechanical analysis, factors such as speed and force and the position of Mr. O'Keefe. So that's, oh, I'm sorry, page 18, the next page regarding the same subject matter. And portion of the next sentence is also out. This results in bruising or bleeding under the skin. That's out. But Dr. LaPosata can testify that Mr. O'Keefe had no bruising on his arms or torso. And that's it for that sentence. In particular, Mr. O'Keefe did not have bruises on his legs as shown by dissection of leg tissue and muscle at autopsy. That's it for that. And the conclusions are problematic to the extent that is consistent with this ruling and what we discussed on Friday. So that's it. That was just the text of her report. I have not begun to go through all of the, there's no PowerPoint with this, Mr. Jackson, right?
There is no PowerPoint.
All right. Do you intend on displaying any of these photographs?
I'm sorry?
Do you intend on displaying any of the photographs that are in her report?
Yes. I have to go through it now, of course.
All right, so you likely not get to that today. We've done important work, but we've wasted an awful lot of the jurors' time today. So I want to bring them in. And
My suggestion, we have to finish it anyways.
right, we're going to do that now. So that'll give you an opportunity to pull your thoughts together.
Right, and I expect what I will do is so the court has to appreciate my intention. I will go through a presentation. That will take me a good amount of time. I will go through the part of her initial analysis that will not include any of the photos, but I may need overnight to actually go through the court's ruling. It's very specific, and I want to be as
Okay, so
that as possible.
let me know what you intend to put in. All right, and there's a lot of text describing the photos that is out, right? It's just hearsay.
I mean, we've had Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint.
That was not objected to. There's a big difference.
Yes, it was objected to.
So
It was.
So we'll deal with this tomorrow, with the photographs
I
tomorrow.
just want to let the court know, not waste the court's time.
Okay, thank you. And we're bringing the jurors in. Did the Commonwealth want to respond in any way?
No, thank you.
Okay. And there's a motion on Dr. Rentschler. We will give that, I haven't read it yet. We'll give that no more than 5 minutes tomorrow morning each side. This jury, you can tell just by looking at this jury, they're fed up. So,
Your Honor, the only thing I want to put on the record is, with regards to the court's ruling, I do want the record to reflect that is obviously it's over the defense objection.
sure.
And I just want to make for the record quick comment. The Commonwealth waited until June 5th to even bring this up, to file a motion regarding Dr. LAPOSATA. They've had a report, and all reciprocal discovery was done in March 6th, 2025. That's document number 485.
Yeah.
And the Commonwealth was ordered to file whatever motions they wanted to, whatever motions in limine they thought were appropriate by March 7th, and they did not do that. They were supposed to be heard on March 18th.
Okay, so the jurors are coming in. We're going to mark the report and the CV for identification.
I just need to know what I can make it.
You just made it.
I made it ish. I wasn't
Okay.
ish before we wrote it myself,
Okay.
but the point is,
Go ahead, real quick.
the Commonwealth has not explained the delay
So,
in making this motion. They haven't, and we're playing by the same rules, Judge.
so the basis of my ruling was not late disclosure. Okay? Late disclosure, disclosure. Commonwealth says they're part.
That's not the court's missing the point. It's the opposite. We got late disclosure. We got late disclosure that they were objecting. They've had since March to object. They blew the motion in limited time, and then they come in just before Dr.
All right.
LAPOSATA testifies, and now they're sort of sandbagging this and getting the court moves against it. So I want to make the record imminently clear.
Very clear. Mr. Brennan, do you want to respond real quickly?
Your Honor, we can always object even during proffering of testimony with no foundational issue.
And that's consistent with what my rulings were when I allowed other witnesses to testify, that the defense could object if the foundation weren't properly laid. So, bring them in, please.
Fidel. I don't know what what happened there, but my stream dropped out completely. I didn't even know about it. The chat started first, like I had no chat for an hour and a half. Then I refreshed it, got it back, and then it stopped again. Had to reboot the whole computer. So I apologize. And Simi, it's the defense is resting tomorrow. Well, with all these voir dires and hold-ups, maybe not. But yeah, we've got a couple more days before rebuttal.
Go until 4 o'clock, and we're going to make every effort to not leave you waiting out there as long as you have, as long as we did today. All right, Ms. Giannetti, is your witness ready?
And then I had a look at my feet, and they're purple, so I'm going to lay down and do the rest from the bedroom.
All right, Mr. Tedderman, whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, before the lunch break, you had identified three entrances to the front of 34 Fairview, leaving aside the 2 garage car doors. Do you recall that?
Yes.
May I have that last exhibit displayed, please? Not that one, the one that we discussed right before court. There it is. Maybe zoom in on that a little. Okay. What do you see on the screen at this point, sir?
I see the 2 rightmost entrances to the house, excluding the main front door.
Okay, which would be obviously to the left
To the
of this
left.
photo, particularly with regard to the third entrance, the one in red. Could you describe that?
Yes, so it's if you're facing the house from the street, you're looking towards the west. So that door goes directly into the garage facing north.
Okay, so basically from the street, you don't have to enter the house, you can go into the garage directly.
That is directly into the garage, yes.
All right, and as we're looking at the house from this point, are we looking at it from the vantage point of Fairview Road?
Yes,
And that is a westerly direction toward the house, sir?
correct.
In the course of doing your further work that you were asked to do in this case, did you peer inside the garage?
Yes, I did.
Did you see concrete steps and a ridge there and a hard concrete floor?
Yes.
Sustain. Jurors disregard that answer.
Leading.
You mentioned that you were asked to do some measurements. Can you describe what you were asked to do for the jury?
Yes, I was asked to measure from basically the mailbox area of the driveway to the various entrances to the house.
Did you take those measurements?
I did.
Okay, if I'd like to take them one at a time. First, did you measure from the end of the driveway next to the mailbox all the way to the main front door, which is not depicted on this photo?
Yes, I did.
How did you measure it?
I used my wheeled measuring device.
What the fuck
And I
was that?
walked directly across the lawn to the front door, well, to the bottom of the front steps, and then used it to go up the front steps straight to the door.
And what was the measurement, if you recall, from the mailbox area near the end of the driveway to the main front door on the left?
I believe it was 65 feet 9 inches, but I have notes if I might.
I think you got it right, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, did you measure from that same location near the street, the end of the driveway next to the mailbox, to the second front door, which is actually depicted in the exhibit that's on the screen?
I did.
And how did you measure that?
I walked along the edge of the driveway on the asphalt, right next to the grass, towards the house from the mailbox and the edge of the street, towards the house. I took a left onto the brick walkway, proceeded along that walkway, then took a right to the walkway that you can see right there, heading directly to the door, and went up onto the little decking area, and then those 2 steps directly to the doorstep.
Okay, so you walked essentially almost the whole length of the driveway
Yes,
before you took the left to get to where the steps start going to that second front door,
yes,
and then went up to the door itself.
yes.
Do you recall from your memory what the measurement was?
I believe it was 70 feet 1 inch.
And finally, did you measure from that same end of the driveway near the street next to the mailbox to the red side door, which is the pedestrian entrance into the garage directly?
I did.
How did you measure that?
I did the same thing, walking directly from where the mailbox and the driveway intersect, basically, all the way up the driveway, took the same left onto the red brick pathway, took a right to go towards the front door, went up the 1 step that you can see, and then instead of going up the next 2 steps, I took a right directly towards the garage entry door.
So essentially the same path of travel, it's just you didn't go straight into the second front door, you took a right to go into the pedestrian entrance to the garage.
Correct.
And what was the measurement that you discovered having done that?
I believe it was 78 feet 3 inches.
Now, finally, could we have displayed the map of Cedar Crest, Fairview, and Chapman? There it is. Sir, are you able to see the street names from where you are? And if
Yes.
not, could we have the top street magnified so that the witness can see it? Okay, you see that?
I do.
What do you see that to be?
Cedar Crest Road.
Okay, if we could have the connecting street where the, that's it.
Fairview Road.
All right, and finally, the one down the bottom?
Chapman Street.
Okay, if we can get the whole map back up. Having seen those 3 street names, does that orient you as to what this is a map of?
It does.
And what is that?
This is the surrounding area of 34 Fairview Road, the neighborhood, basically.
Okay, and it includes the 2 connecting streets on either end?
Correct.
Does the red dot symbolize anything for you?
It looks to be where 34 Fairview Road is located.
Okay, and if you're on Fairview Road to the right of that red dot as it exists on that exhibit, and you're looking toward Fairview Road, what direction would you be facing?
It'd be facing west.
If I may have a moment,
I just did a calculation, 78 meters sorry, 78, what do you say, feet, works out to be 32 steps. And John's health data, the last thing was 36 steps taken. There you go. Oh, hey, Palola's mum. How you going? Welcome.
Further questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Questions?
Yes. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You had a wheel to measure,
Correct.
and so there's like a tape measure, and when you wheel it out, it gives a straight line?
No, it's two wheels with a meter in between them, and you roll it out in front of you.
I see. Your first measurement was from the driveway to the front door,
To the main front door to the far left, yes.
and that was about 63 feet?
I believe it was 65 feet, something like that. I have
65?
my notes, yes.
So suffice to say, if you were to leave the front door and come back to that spot, it would be an additional 65 feet back, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't take any more steps. No, not until, and it was manually turned off. It didn't move again until Kerry Roberts got hold of it the next morning.
The second measurement was from the bottom of the driveway to the middle door on the side?
Yeah, the second front door, yes.
Did you say that was about 70 feet?
It was, yes.
Okay. And again, if you were to come back, that would be an additional 70 feet?
It would.
And the last one was the door near the garage. Did you say that was further, around 80 feet?
78 feet, 3 inches, I
Is
believe.
it one way?
Correct.
And back is another 78 feet?
Correct.
When you measured these, was it from the asphalt of the driveway or to the left of the mailbox as you're looking at Fairview?
It was to the right of the mailbox on the asphalt, as close to the mailbox as I could get.
Did you happen to take any measurements from the flagpole to the front door as far as distance?
I did.
And what was that?
I do not have the exact measurement. I'm not sure.
Do you have it in a report that you can
I
look
don't.
at?
I don't. No, not with me.
How about the flagpole to the middle door on the side? Did you take any measurements of that?
I'm not sure I took that one.
How about the flagpole to the furthest away door, which would be the door next to the garage? Did you take any measurements of that?
I think I took a direct measurement to that, yes.
Right, and what was that number?
I don't know.
Do you have a report you can share with us?
I
of that
don't.
number?
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Did you ever measure if you were at the flagpole area, how long it would take to walk up the street? Or how far it would be to walk up the street, up the driveway to any of those doors? Did you ever measure it that way?
I did.
And what was the distance if you were going to start at the flagpole, walk up the street, up the driveway, down the walkway to the front door?
I'm not sure that distance. Not positive the distance.
Was it over 80 feet?
It was.
And if you did the same route up the street, up the driveway, to the middle door, would you agree that would be well over 80 feet as well?
Can you repeat the question? How?
Sure. If you were to measure from the flagpole, up the street, up the driveway, to the middle door, that would be well over 80 feet.
Yes.
Same to the door next to the garage.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, nothing further.
All right, you are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would ask the court to ask Dr. Elizabeth LaPosata to join us.
Okay.
This is going to be interesting. I think this is their final witness. Oh no, they've got registrar.
And you're going to step up, face the clerk, and raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the evidence you give to the court and jury in the case now and hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
I do. Good afternoon, Doctor. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
May I inquire?
Yes, and Dr. LaPosata, please speak right into that microphone,
I
okay?
will.
Thank you.
Doctor, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the jurors?
Yes, Dr. Elizabeth LaPosata, spelled L-A-P-O-S-A-T-A.
I'm going to ask you, you have a softer voice. I'm going to ask you to pull that microphone right under your chin, if you don't mind. It's pretty adjustable.
Okay. Better?
That's better.
Okay.
That's better. Doctor, can you tell the jurors what you do for a living?
Yes, I'm a medical doctor and I subspecialize in forensic pathology.
Can you summarize your professional background?
Certainly, I graduated in 1975 from Bucknell University with a Bachelor of Science in Biology. I went to University of Maryland School of Medicine, where I graduated in 1979 with a Doctor of Medicine. I did my internship and fellowship at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, where I studied anatomic pathology, which is the study of the diseases of the body. I then did my subspecialty fellowship in St. Louis in forensic pathology, which is understanding causes of death and injuries to the body.
Currently, are you a professor?
Yes, I am.
And tell us where you work.
I own my own independent consulting practice, and I'm also an associate professor at Brown University School of Medicine.
How long have you taught at Brown University School of Medicine?
Since 1993.
And how long have you been a clinical associate professor of pathology either at Brown or before that?
Oh, gee, then that would have been since at least in the late 80s. I've been associate professors at the universities and medical schools where I've worked.
Doctor, at Brown University, let's take Brown first. What do you teach there?
I teach the second-year medical students. I teach a lecture in diseases of the heart, cardiomyopathy, and myocarditis. And I've been asked to give some specialized lectures in toxicology and forensic pathology.
Are you responsible for training medical students in the field of forensic pathology?
When I was a chief medical examiner, yes, we would have medical students, residents, come into the office so they could learn about what we do to understand cause and circumstances of death.
When you first got your medical license, did you then undertake to get certain board certifications and the like?
Yes.
Before we get to those board certifications, did you begin a practice in forensic pathology in some way or another?
After I finished my medical school and my anatomic fellowships and forensic pathology fellowships, then I was working in medical examiners' offices where I was examining deceased people to understand how they died.
When you get a medical license, is that statewide or is it nationwide?
Usually you get a state medical license.
And do you hold a state medical license?
Yes.
How many?
I have an active medical license in Rhode Island where I have my consulting practice, and I have inactive license in Maryland, Delaware, Missouri, Pennsylvania.
And you've been previously, at least before they were inactive, you were licensed in all 5 of those states.
Yes.
You need your bubbles,
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
About your college.
Put your bubble of protection.
Did you mention Bucknell University? Your Bachelor of Science degree?
I think I did, yes.
At some point after you graduated from the University of Maryland School of Medicine, did you complete any residencies?
Yes, I did my residency at, excuse me, at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore in anatomic pathology.
Forensic pathology is different from anatomic pathology, correct?
Yes.
Did you also do any kind of residency in forensic pathology?
Yes, I did a fellowship in forensic pathology.
And what is the difference between, if you can sort of take us through that little by little, what is the difference between forensic pathology and anatomic pathology?
Anatomic pathology is sort of hospital-based pathology where we understand diseases of patients who are in the hospital and try to make clinical pathologic correlations to see if their diagnoses were correct, if the laboratory tests actually showed what we find at postmortem. And then forensic pathology deals more with understanding why the body stops functioning at a particular time. So that would be cause of death. And that can be sudden unexpected death or death due to violence.
And in forensic pathology, is that often associated with testimony in court cases that may deal with either on the civil side or the criminal side, coming in and testifying about things like cause of death and manner of death?
Yes.
What types of cases did you work on during your forensic pathology residency?
Oh, sudden unexpected natural death, gunshot wounds, knife wounds, sudden infant deaths, blunt force trauma, skeletonized remains, decomposed bodies, strangulation, the whole gamut of ways people can die unnaturally.
And what type, to contrast that, what types of cases did you work on during your anatomic pathology residency?
There you're mainly dealing with natural diseases and understanding heart disease or how somebody gets pneumonia, or looking at the brain to understand if a stroke was present. And that's especially important then to the doctors who are treating those patients, that they can see if the diagnostic tests were appropriate or if their treatments worked.
You mentioned fellowship a little earlier in your testimony. What is a fellowship?
A fellowship is after you've done your internship and residency. A fellowship is more specialized training, and I did that in forensic pathology.
So that answers my next question. You do hold a postgraduate fellowship position, correct?
Yes, yes.
And that was in forensic pathology specifically?
I'm board certified in anatomic and forensic pathology.
Were you a research associate at the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine at University of Pennsylvania School of Law?
Yes.
I'm sorry, School of Medicine?
Yes.
Old habits.
Yeah.
What about postdoctoral research fellow? Were you ever a postdoctoral research fellow?
Yes, I did. I had an NIH research grant where I worked on, how alcohol affects the heart.
Where was that?
That was at St. Louis University, and then when I was on staff at the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia.
What about postdoctoral research fellow at dealing with the cardiovascular division of the Department of Medicine at Washington University?
Yes, that's where I did research on how alcohol affects the heart.
Was all this in furtherance of your broad education and training as a pathologist?
Yes.
I think you indicated that you have served as a chief medical examiner in answering one of the previous questions. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I was appointed chief medical examiner for the state of Rhode Island in 1993, where I was responsible for all unexpected, unnatural deaths or deaths that involve violence in the state of Rhode Island. So I had to supervise the office, made sure I have adequate staff, made sure my forensic pathology staff were doing a good job, made sure I had an adequate scene investigative staff. So running the whole office.
Is that the highest appointment in the OCME's office?
Yes, it is.
In that position, did you oversee every single medical examiner in the state of Rhode Island?
Yes.
Did you also hold a position as the co-chair of Child Fatality Review Committee in the state of Rhode Island?
Yes, as part of being chief medical examiner.
Tell us a little bit about that. What was that appointment?
Well, there's a big concern about infants who die and children who die. So those are reviewed specifically by a group of doctors from the pediatricians and also then the medical examiner's office. So we look at every child and infant death.
How long did you serve as the chief medical examiner in the state of Rhode Island?
For 12 years.
Starting when and ending when?
Starting in 1993 and ending in 2005.
As the chief medical examiner for Rhode Island, did you ever have the responsibility to work on any mass disaster cases?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that. If you could start with the Egypt Air issue.
Yes. excuse me, I'm so sorry. In 1999, the Egypt Air 990 took off from New York airport, and it crashed off the coast of Massachusetts, and 2,065 passengers died. And because of the force of the airplane going into the water, all the bodies were fragmented.
Oh.
So all the fragments were brought to my
Bloody
medical
hell.
examiner's office. They actually
Oh.
vacuumed the ocean floor, and we had 2,600 some fragmented remains from that airplane crash, and that involved working with FBI, TSA, to identify those individuals and understand exactly why they died.
What was your role and the role of your staff that you supervised in dealing with those other government agencies, the FBI, the NTSA, other entities, in terms of the fatalities that you did review as a medical examiner, the chief medical examiner of Rhode Island?
I dealt with families from around the globe who had relatives on that flight, and then the FBI was looking into what may have caused the crash. The Egyptian government, who owned the airplane, was also there and interested in understanding what happened. And we were also, tasked with identifying everybody who was on the plane and to see if that matched the passenger manifest list. So were there people on the plane who shouldn't have been on the plane? So that sort of thing.
In terms of matching that manifest, were you the head of the department for the medical examiner's office that was responsible for trying to figure out who was on the plane and match those remains with the individuals that were on the manifest?
Yes, we made the positive forensic identifications and returned the fragmented human remains to their families.
Doctor, did you also deal with the tragic Station nightclub fire?
Yes.
In what capacity did you deal with that?
Again, this was a nightclub that burned down. It burned down very rapidly with a very hot fire, and that was in Rhode Island, and there were 100 fatalities from that.
Wow.
So those come to the medical examiner's office. I had my investigator at the scene throughout that time of recovering the bodies, and
Yeah.
I was charged with determining the identity and the cause of death.
Were you successful, or your staff successful, in determining the identity of most of those individuals who perished?
Yes, all of them. We worked around the clock for 3 days to get that done.
And you were the head of that task,
I
task
was.
force. Before you became the chief medical examiner in Rhode Island, did you previously work as a medical examiner under somebody else?
Yes.
Tell me about that. What was your first post as a assistant medical examiner?
My first post was after I did my fellowship training in St. Louis, Missouri. I was an assistant medical examiner for the city of St. Louis.
Were you ever an assistant medical examiner in Philadelphia?
Yes, so after St. Louis, I moved to Philadelphia, where I was on staff at the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania, and I ran the autopsy service there at the hospital, and I was also an assistant medical examiner for the city of Philadelphia. After that, I was an assistant medical examiner for the state of Delaware, and then I came to Rhode Island as I was chosen to be chief.
Dr. LaPosata, can we put dates on that? Assistant medical examiner in St. Louis, from when to when? Do you remember?
Oh my, let's see. May I look at my CV?
Sure, with the court's permission.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, from 1983 to 85, I was an assistant medical examiner for the city of St. Louis. Then in 87 to 91, I was the assistant medical examiner for the city of Philadelphia. 91 to 93, assistant medical examiner for the state of Delaware. And then 1993 to 2005, I was chief medical examiner for the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you for that. Dr. LaPosata, have you held any faculty positions in the field of forensic pathology that qualify you as an expert in this case?
Yes, every medical examiner's office I worked in, I also had faculty appointments to teach medical students and pathology residents. So I had faculty appointments at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, at the Hospital University of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, and in Rhode Island.
Let's talk about those one at a time. Describe your teaching responsibilities at Brown Medical School, if you wouldn't mind. And that, by the way, that's from 1994 to present, correct?
93 to, well, as a medical examiner, it was 1993 to 2005. And there I would teach the medical students. We had rotations through the medical examiner's office, and also the pathology residents would rotate through the medical examiner's office, where I would teach them how to do a medical legal autopsy, how to understand the cause and manner of death, especially non-natural and traumatic deaths.
With regard to your teaching responsibilities specifically, are you still teaching?
I'm teaching in the cardiovascular section now, but since I'm not chief of the medical examiner's office, I obviously don't have students rotating through there anymore.
Were you a lecturer in the role of medical examiner? Did you do a seminar in that regard at or associated with Brown University School of Medicine?
Yes.
Did you do some sort of a forensic pathology rotation for pathology residents from 1994 to 1995 in that capacity as well?
Yes, we would have the pathology residents who were at the hospital studying anatomic pathology come to the medical examiner's office so they could understand the discipline of forensic pathology.
What is cardiomyopathy?
Cardiomyopathy is a muscular disease of the muscles of the heart.
And what is myocarditis?
Inflammation of the heart muscle.
Did you ever teach or lecture on those issues?
Yes, I teach every year. I teach the second-year medical students about those heart diseases.
Have you ever taught anatomy and physiology to EMTs?
Yes,
Or in the EMT setting?
yes.
And what about a class known as the 2-hour primer on forensic pathology?
I've taught a lot. I don't recall that particular.
How about pathology residents morning conference in 2009?
Oh, yes. I give lectures to the pathology residents at the medical school at Brown Medical School in forensic pathology.
You also mentioned that you were an adjunct professor for biomedical forensic sciences and forensic anthropology in the Department of Anatomy and Neurology. Is that a division of the graduate school, Boston University School of Medicine?
Yes, I taught in the master's program in the medical school at Boston University School of Medicine for a master's in forensic science, where I taught a 40-hour course on forensic pathology and another 40-hour course on medical legal death investigation.
Were you actually the course director in that position?
Yes.
And were you also a course director in medical legal death investigation from 2006 to 2013?
Yes.
And what about a course director in forensic toxicology from 2006 to 2012?
Correct.
Did you direct the studies in biomedical forensic sciences, GMS, from 2012 to present?
Yes.
Describe that. What is that?
The graduate medical sciences?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I would review and be on the board to examine projects that the students were doing to get a master's degree.
Were you also an assistant professor in the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine at University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine?
Yes.
Okay. Without going into every single class that you taught, did you teach from 1987 to 1991, attending staff medical pathology?
Yes.
What is that? Just a general outline of what that teaching course was.
That's when I was at the hospital, University of Pennsylvania. I ran the autopsy service, so I taught medical students and pathology residents about autopsy practice.
I want to ask you sort of broadly, can you describe your major teaching and clinical responsibilities when you were at University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, in the field of forensic pathology? What were your main clinical and teaching positions?
Well, I ran the autopsy service there, so I taught the medical residents and medical students autopsy pathology, and I was also a assistant medical examiner there, so I taught and started the forensic fellowship in forensic pathology.
Have you ever been qualified as an expert witness in forensic and anatomic pathology in state and federal courts?
Yes.
How many times would you say you've qualified as an expert?
Over 40 years, maybe several hundred.
How about in Massachusetts?
That includes all of them.
Okay. Have you ever qualified? Let me list a couple of states. In Massachusetts,
Yes,
California,
yes,
Connecticut,
yes,
Delaware,
yes,
Florida,
yes,
Illinois,
yes,
Maryland,
yes,
Minnesota,
yes,
Missouri,
yes,
New York,
yes,
Pennsylvania,
yes,
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, yes.
Have I left anything out? That's
Did
just
you
about
say
all.
Massachusetts?
I did.
Okay, then
We
you're
started
fine.
with Massachusetts.
Okay, you're fine.
What types of topics have you qualified to testify about as an expert forensic and anatomic pathologist?
Really, anything that has to do with circumstances and cause of death. So it doesn't really matter, like, what type of injury or a sudden unexpected death. Usually it involves examination, study of information from the scene, information from the autopsy, police and investigation and medical records, and we put that all together and figure out the circumstances as to how someone died and why their body stopped functioning. So that's the basis of forensic pathology.
Dr. Williams, excuse me for just a second. You want to maybe approach for one brief?
Mm-hmm. Oh. I was getting a bit weary, I must say. My bowls of soup were absolutely delicious, though. Oh. Oh, the natives are getting restless. They'll be wanting their breakfast early, no doubt. Little turds. So this is the yeah, they're nibbling at the dry food now, so that's my hint. They've always got dry food out, but yeah, they snack on it when they're starting to get hungry. Mind you, they were fed at what, 9 o'clock. They're not starving, trust me. Not even by a long shot. In fact, they're spoilt. Two of them get breakfast in bed. They don't even bother coming out anymore. They know that I'm going to bring their bowls to them. And the other two have breakfast generally with me. Funny. Funny, funny. Oh, yeah, I've got maybe she needs worming, Teresia. I don't know. I've got one. Yeah, see, if she's on prednisolone, isn't she? She's on steroids.
2 minutes.
With arthritis, no doubt. So she'll be hungry all the time.
Certainly.
And jurors, rather than send you downstairs and back up the stairs to come back in 5 minutes, I'm gonna sit here, you all can sit here, we're just gonna be in recess for 5 minutes while we sit.
What the fuck's going on now? Is your cat on steroids? To have? Yeah, it does help, yes. Takes the pressure off the joints, but it's a double-edged sword if you're on steroids, because it doesn't really matter what you eat. And I've actually just been diagnosed with a new course, unusual, rarish type condition. It's called Derkham's disease. Now, so it's basically so when it's a connective tissue disorder, but it's to be continued.
You can have a seat here.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. LaPosata, you mentioned several topics about which you testified and qualified as an expert. Testified about it as an expert in several different states, several different courtrooms. Have you been qualified as an expert by those courts in those topics about which you just discussed?
Yes.
Do you hold any specialty certifications in the field of forensic pathology?
Well, I'm board certified in forensic pathology.
What about the American Board of Pathology?
Yes, the American Board of Pathology puts forth examinations that are a 2-day examination in the various disciplines of pathology. And if you successfully complete those examinations, then you become a diplomat of the American Board of Pathology in whichever subspecialty you're in. And I became a diplomat in the subspecialty of anatomic and forensic pathology.
What about a certification in basic bloodstain pattern analysis, the International Association of Identification?
Yes, I had a week-long course in understanding blood pattern analysis.
Can you tell us a little bit about the National Registry Emergency Medical Technician certification that you hold?
Yes, I took training to become an EMT.
Have you received a number of honors and awards in the field of forensic pathology?
I have.
What do those awards include?
May I look at my CV again? Sure. Thank you. I had teaching awards from Brown University School of Medicine. I was featured in a book by Faces of Public Health as having run a good medical examiner's office. I was nominated for Woman of the Year in Rhode Island for my work as chief medical examiner in improving the office and handling those 2 mass disasters. I was honored by Victims' Rights and Services Awards because I've always been aware of the fact that as a forensic pathologist, I am the last doctor this person is going to have, so I try to help the family understand what happened. I was honored for my work in the mass disaster in Egypt Air 990 plane crash. Let's see. I was Outstanding Woman in Public Service for Providence, Rhode Island. I've gotten teaching awards from Brown University School of Medicine. I was elected to the Board of Trustees in the Delaware SIDS Foundation and the Philadelphia SIDS Foundation. And then we're back to my medical school.
If you could pull the microphone a little closer to your chin.
It's very hard because the chair doesn't push in it.
Oh, it doesn't, the chair doesn't move.
Oh,
Okay.
I got it. I moved.
We'll make do.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. LaPosata. What is the American Academy of Forensic Sciences?
That's one of our medical associations that is specific to forensic sciences.
Have you ever held a chaired position there?
Yes.
What position was that?
I was voted into a fellowship position.
Were you the chairman of Forensic Science Research, the Forensic Science Research Committee?
Yes.
What's the National Association of Medical Examiners?
It's also called NAME. It's another international association of forensic pathologists.
Were you a member of that organization?
Yes.
And at some point, did you get elected to the board of directors for that organization?
Yes,
And ultimately, did you become a fellow for that organization?
I did.
What is the American Society of Clinical Pathologists?
That's a society that is for people who practice anatomic pathology and understand how to interpret laboratory results and biopsies.
Did you become a fellow in 1991 until present for that organization?
Yes.
What's the difference between a member and a fellow?
A member is a lower level, and then you can be promoted to fellow if the board of directors feels that you've contributed in your field.
And were you associated with the College of American Pathologists?
Yes,
Were you a fellow there as well?
yes,
What about the World Association for Medical Law?
yes,
What about the American Association for Clinical Chemistry?
yes, I'm a member.
Rhode Island Medical Women's Association, what is that?
Well, it's basically what it says. It's women doctors in Rhode Island.
Were you elected to the board of directors for that organization?
Yes,
Ultimately, were you elected as the president of that organization?
I was.
Rhode Island Medical Society, what is that?
It's an organization of doctors who practice in Rhode Island.
Are you a council member there?
Yes,
And what about the Massachusetts Medical Legal Society?
yes, I was a member there. They have disbanded since.
It doesn't exist anymore?
No,
When it was up and running, you were a member in good standing?
yes,
Good, good. Pennsylvania Association of Pathologists, what about that?
yes. When I practiced in Pennsylvania, I was a member of that organization.
Did you, in addition to be a member there, did you also hold a chaired position? Were you the chairman for the Committee on Forensic Pathology?
Yes,
Have you served on any editorial boards of any scholarly journals or
Yes.
publications? Tell me
Yes.
about that.
I've reviewed articles submitted for the Journal of Forensic Sciences and the National Association of Medical Examiner Journals.
Did you also hold an editorial position for the American Journal of Forensic Medicine and Pathology?
Yes,
Is that one of the medical journals that is used throughout the country by other medical professionals, other medical examiners?
yes,
It's a resource
yes,
and a text.
correct.
Have you authored any peer-reviewed publications in the field of forensic pathology?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us about some of those publications?
Let's see if I got here. Yeah, I've written chapters in textbooks about medical legal death investigation and forensic pathology. I've published articles involving alcohol metabolism, some drugs, cocaine. Let's see. Alcohol metabolism in the heart, I mentioned. Let's see. And so I've published 22 papers, and I've written several chapters.
You already said that you're a board-certified double board certified in anatomic and forensic pathology. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now that you've gone through your education, training, background, publications, teaching positions, and chairs that you've held, I want to ask you a really simple question. What does a forensic pathologist do?
Yeah. We are the last doctor that the dead person has, and we figure out what happened to the body to cause their death. And we sign the death certificate that says how the body came to die and also indicates the circumstances under which the death occurred.
Our medical examiner is also tasked with determining both manner and cause, not just one or the other.
Both, yes.
What is the manner of death and how is it distinguished from the cause of death?
The cause of death is what happens to the body to cause it to stop functioning. And the manner of death refers to circumstances under which the death occurred. So there's hundreds of thousands of causes of death or why the body stops functioning, but there's only a few manners of death, which would be natural, accident, suicide, homicide, or undetermined.
Those 5 main categories of manner of death, is that the responsibility or one of the responsibilities of a forensic medical examiner to determine that the death fits into one of those 5 categories?
Correct.
What does it mean when the death is deemed undetermined?
Now, when the manner of death is undetermined, that means at the time the death certificate was signed, there was not enough information to put it into either accident, natural, suicide, or homicide. So at the time the death certificate was signed, there was not enough information to put it into one of those other categories. It doesn't mean that if more investigation takes place, then you might be able to put it in one of those other categories.
If a manner of death is deemed at a particular time undetermined, at that time, it's because it lacks sufficient additional information. Is that correct?
Sustained.
What types of information does a medical examiner, a forensic pathologist consider in making these determinations between natural, accident, homicide, suicide, undetermined?
Well, first you have the findings from the examination of the body. So that's sort of a starting place to see what happened to the body. Then you need to also look at the scene investigation. You need to look at any police reports and witness statements, and also medical history of the deceased. And using those 4 sources of information, and using your training and experience, you can either say this is a natural death, this is a self-inflicted death, it's a suicide, it's an accidental death, it's a homicide, or if all that information doesn't allow you to put to a reasonable degree of medical certainty into any one of those categories, then you have to leave the manner undetermined. And if more information becomes available later, then you can change that death certificate.
What if no more information comes available later?
It just stays as undetermined. There are cases where there's just not enough information to put it in one of those other categories.
Without getting into what they may be, did you reach any opinions and conclusions in connection with this case?
Yes.
What materials and information did you consider in reaching your opinions and conclusions in this particular case?
Yes. I have my list of materials I reviewed. I reviewed Mr. O'Keefe's autopsy report, the report of the examination of his brain, the toxicology report, and the entire medical examiner file. I studied 100 and some autopsy photos, including photographs of the brain, and then there were 70 other photographs at autopsy taken by a state trooper who was at the examination. I reviewed Mr. O'Keefe's medical records from Good Samaritan Medical Center and the EMS run sheet. I reviewed photographs of Mr. O'Keefe's clothes that were taken at the crime lab. I reviewed photographs of pieces of tail light, hard plastic, clear, black, red. I reviewed photographs of the outside of Karen Reed's SUV. I reviewed the Canton Police Department incident report on the death. I reviewed 100 and some photographs taken by Canton Police of the outside of the house at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. I reviewed some photographs taken by the real estate agent who was going to sell the house of the inside.
In total, putting them in categories, did you review the forensic autopsy?
Yes,
Did you review all of the files associated with the medical examiner's office in this particular case related to the autopsy of John O'Keefe?
yes,
Did you review the scene investigation through police reports and other things?
yes,
Photographs as well?
yes,
Did you review the police reports that were associated with the initial investigation in this case as well as follow-ups?
yes.
Did you review witness statements and things of that sort?
Yes, if they were included in the police report.
That was my next question. Those witness statements would be included in the police reports that you otherwise reviewed, correct?
Yes,
What about Mr. O'Keefe's medical history as much as you had of it?
yes, I reviewed his medical history.
And what about hospital records?
His medical history was in the hospital records.
Understood. What method did you use or methodology did you use in forming the opinion that we'll get to in just a few minutes?
Well, in order to arrive at a conclusion of how somebody dies and what the cause of death is, we have to put all our facts out, and then we say, how could these facts have come to be? So it's called like a differential diagnosis. So like if you go to your doctor and you have a white blood cell count, then the doctor would say, well, how many ways do you get this white blood cell count? So that's a differential diagnosis, and then you go from that list and pare it down by getting more data till you come to one final diagnosis. So that's the process of determining how somebody dies and the circumstance around it.
Is it fair to say that you have a pretty significant background, training, and experience regarding coming to the conclusion of cause and manner of death?
40 plus years.
And how many autopsies in total?
Well, myself, I've probably done over 3,000, and then I have observed and reviewed maybe 7,000 more.
So that's in total over 10,000 autopsies if you were to estimate over 40 years?
Probably.
In addition to just autopsies, how many death investigations, separate and apart from autopsies, have you been involved with?
Well, the autopsy usually has a corresponding death investigation with it.
Do you have experience in examining and identifying wounds, not necessarily the cause and manner of death, but wounds that are associated with someone on whom you're performing an autopsy or you're supervising an autopsy?
Yeah, so looking at the injuries on the body and understanding what caused them is a huge part of forensic pathology.
Have you ever conducted or overseen any autopsies of individuals involved in vehicle-pedestrian collisions?
Yes.
How many times, if you had to estimate?
No, hundreds.
100 or hundreds?
Hundreds.
When was it that you first started training on the issue of wound pattern recognition that helps assist you with coming to your conclusions, whether it be auto pedestrian incidents or otherwise?
Yeah, well, understanding wound patterns and injuries is a big part of forensic pathology because we want to identify what caused a particular pattern. So understanding that whole complex bag of injuries begins when you start your forensic pathology training, which was when I started back in '81.
In addition to the cause of death, which might be a gunshot, something, does the pathologist also undertake an examination of the rest of the body that's not so obvious, other wounds, etc., that might tell a more defined story?
Yes, we look at the entire body, we look at the clothing, we look at the outside of the body, then we do the internal examination in order to understand not only why the body stopped functioning, which is the cause of death, but also things that could have contributed to it or helped to understand the circumstances around how that death occurred.
When you say the body, you mentioned the clothing. Why is the clothing important? Is that part of the body for a forensic medical examiner?
Oh, yes, it is. You always have to look at the clothing because it has materials on it that may be important as to how injuries occurred. So it's every time you do an autopsy, you have to always make sure you have the clothing. Many times it would have been taken off at the hospital, but then I would always ask my staff, tell the police, we've got to get the clothes, have to look at the clothes.
What is a gross examination?
A gross examination is not actually like gross, grotesque, but it means like without microscopes. It means just looking with your naked eye.
Is it important to look at a body, a deceased person, when you're conducting an autopsy from head to toe for outside obvious wounds that you can see on the gross anatomy outside?
Oh, yes, and also to collect any trace evidence that may be present on the body.
Are forensic medical examiners trained to do that?
Oh, yes,
Are you trained to do that?
absolutely.
In addition to a gross examination on the outside of the body, is it also important to look on the inside of the body?
Yes,
Are there wounds and injuries that might be hidden by the dermis, for instance, the skin, that might not be so obvious on a gross examination of a body?
yes, you have to look inside the body.
And what's the mechanism of doing that?
Excuse me. We make surgical incisions in the body so we can examine the brain, the neck, all the organs in the chest, all the organs in the abdomen, and depending on the case, we may make incisions in the arms and legs to look for evidence of injuries.
What about x-rays? Are x-rays an important part of an examination in an autopsy?
Yes, they're usually done before the autopsy is started, and we look for changes in the bones or any foreign material that might be present in the body, like a bullet.
Dr. LaPosata, have you ever exercised wound pattern recognition in your position as a forensic pathologist? Or do you do it every time?
Oh, all the time.
Have you ever taught any courses or given lectures on wound identification and wound pattern recognition?
Yes, it's part of understanding blunt force trauma, sharp force trauma, gunshot wounds. They all make injury patterns on the body that the pathologist can then relate to what caused that injury.
With regard to the case that's before us, what injuries did you observe with regard to Mr. O'Keefe's head specifically?
I observed that he had evidence of blunt force trauma to the back of his head.
Are those injuries consistent with a particular type or pattern of patterned injury?
Yes.
Describe that for us, please.
There in the back of his head, a little bit to the right-hand side, was a horizontal tearing of the scalp, and that's called a laceration. And surrounding that were linear scrapes that were vertical in orientation. So that is an injury pattern. And then you have to think, well, what could cause that injury pattern?
I was actually
so then you go from there.
Did you also, in addition to looking at, by the way, how did you make that assessment about the injury? Was it photographs?
Yes.
Is that a normal way for a forensic pathologist to make an assessment? Is that an acceptable methodology to make an assessment of a wound pattern by the use of anatomical photographs?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you done it before?
Oh, hundreds of times.
What is a coup contra coup injury?
Wow.
Oh, it's
I can tell you that.
a very interesting, peculiar injury to the head. When you have a blow to the head, the blow can either be
And who
the
mentioned
stationary
the
head
trial?
and there's a blow to it, or you can have the head that's moving and gets the blow. So looking at a pattern of coup contra coup helps the forensic pathologist differentiate that. A coup contra coup injury examines the coup, which is where the impact occurred,
The
and then
contra
we
is where
look at
the other
what's
side.
180 degrees opposite that impact, and that's called the contra coup, or like opposite the coup. And that
Yeah,
injury
that's
pattern helps us determine whether a person was just having a fixed head and somebody hit it, or whether the head was just standing and went down to the ground. The coup contra coup of a falling or being pushed backward has injury patterns where the impact occurred, but then there's also injury patterns 180 degrees opposite from that. And that happens because the brain is floating in cerebral spinal fluid, and when the head comes down, the brain is a little bit behind, so you get the bang on the back of the head, but then because the brain is floating, it hits the inside of the opposite side of the head. And so that makes the contra coup pattern, and that tells us that there's been a fall backwards and hitting the head.
Is that consistent, a coup contra, just in general, a coup contra coup injury, consistent with a linear acceleration of the head by a fall, an unbroken fall straight back?
Correct. There's also some angular force in that as well.
Understood. In order to determine whether or not Mr. O'Keefe suffered from a coup contra coup injury, can that be done by a gross examination, or does it have to be surgical?
We would look at, well, first we look at the outside, but then we have to look at injuries to the scalp, and we look at the skull, see where the skull fractures are, and in particular to look at the brain and see where the damage is to the brain. And there should, in a fall backwards, you have damage to the brain at the site of impact, but you also have damage to the brain 180 degrees opposite from that. And that tells you it's a fall backwards.
In the case before us, dealing with John O'Keefe, were you able to look at the scalp and the injuries associated with the scalp from a gross perspective?
Yes.
Were you also able to look at the skull and possible fractures that Mr. O'Keefe suffered on his skull?
Yes.
And what about the brain? Did you have evidence of a dissection such that you could see the brain and determine whether or not there was a coup contra coup injury associated with the brain?
Yes, I had a full examination of the brain available.
Were Mr. O'Keefe's head injuries consistent with a coup contra coup injury?
Yes.
Could you describe that, specifically his head injuries, to the jurors, please?
Well, as we say, he has a pattern head injury on the back of his scalp, where there is a tearing of the scalp, and then vertically above that, there is some little areas of scraping to the skin. So that tells me that Mr. O'Keefe went backwards onto something that had a little ridge, but it also had some irregularity to it to cause the different scrapes before you get to the tearing of the scalp. Then when we look at the skull, he had massive skull fractures that originated, started in the back of his head. They came around to the front. They went under the base of his brain, under the skull, under the base of the brain, and it came into the front of the skull at the orbital plates and fractured that, and that caused some bleeding in his upper eyelids. When the brain was examined inside the brain, I could see that the brain had become swollen and parts of it had herniated or moved down the area where the spinal cord is, and that's called brainstem herniation, and that is why the brain stops functioning and why your body stops functioning when you have a severe head injury.
You indicated that the wound pattern.
The brainstem basically is the part of the brain that does all of the things you don't think about: blinking, breathing, your reflexes, stuff that happens automatically without you even having to think about it. So once the brainstem goes, that's it. But the reason that the brainstem went with John is because of the hemorrhaging in the brain and the skull and the pressure. Obviously, it's come out from the eyes, but it's also gone down towards the spinal cord, because that's the only two ways it can get out. and the pressure of that constricts the brainstem and cuts off the circulation. That's it.
Suggested a ridge or ledged surface. Could you
Yes.
explain that in more detail, please?
Now, I don't understand that, because they said there was it was a non-depressed fracture. No depression. Now they're saying it was a ridged object.
So if I were looking at it, I would see the break in the scalp. Then I would see several sort of irregularly placed scrapes of the skin that kind of look like pencil marks.
I do
And so
remember
that
seeing
means that
abrasions on
something
the top, but
with
if I can
granularity
find the picture.
he hit first, then it moved up a little, broke the scalp, and then moved on a little bit above that.
Would you expect to see that if Mr. O'Keefe had fallen backward onto a perfectly flat surface?
All right. So that's what she's talking about. And the abrasions she's talking about are above it. That's not the best picture. I'll see if I can find another.
No, it has to be a surface that has some small ridges in it to make those little vertical patterns.
Dr. LAPOSATA, what is ecchymosis?
Ecchymosis is
eyes.
a medical term for bruise.
Did you see any ecchymosis on Mr.
Yes.
O'Keefe that he suffered as a result of the coup contre coup injury to the back of his head?
He had a bruise on his brain, at the back of the brain and at the front of the brain.
What would the outer
What would it look
let me
like?
rephrase that. What would you see around his eyes regarding ecchymosis?
Yes, when you have, when the brain slaps forcefully against the base of the skull, the delicate bones above the eye break, and that's again the coup contre coup, where the brain slaps forward. And when those delicate bones are broken, there's bleeding, and that bleeding then goes right down into the upper eyelids. So it kind of looks like you have black eyes, but there's not been any punch to the face. It's only come from the skull fracture. That's sometimes called raccoon eyes, because you look like a little raccoon.
Did you see any skin injury to either one of Mr. O'Keefe's upper eyelids?
Yes, he had a small kind of slit-like defect horizontal on his right upper eyelid.
Would the ecchymosis on its own produce that type of injury, that laceration over his right eye?
No, the blood seeping down into his upper eyelids was from the skull fractures.
Was the laceration above his eyelid on the right side a separate injury altogether?
Yes, it was.
Based on your training experience, do you have an opinion as to whether or not what that eyelid laceration might be consistent with?
Some application of force which broke the skin.
Could that be from an object?
Possible,
Could it be from a fist?
possible.
Sustain us to the floor, Mr. Jackson.
Give me some possibilities of what might cause that laceration above his right eyelid.
So it's not possibilities.
Give me, in your opinion, what you believe could have caused or produced the injury to the upper right eyelid.
So I'm going to see your sidebar here.
All right. So, it's not very clear. Bugger. Try that one. Yeah, it does look like it's got some straight up and down markings to it. These are the ones that I quickly grabbed as a screen grab, because these didn't come up in the trial. They came up in I can't remember what it was, and I quickly grabbed them because they didn't get shown at all. Let's see what else I found. Oh, that's right. When they were doing it was with Dr. Wolfe when he was testifying about the head wound being it's awful, isn't it? Poor bugger. But yeah, that definitely looks like it's got some straight up and down markings. Hmm. Hmm. Mm.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. LAPOSATA, you just mentioned that the laceration above the right eyelid was consistent with the application of force, correct?
Correct.
You said it could come from some object, is that right?
Correct. It was fairly small. Could be is some sort of object.
Is it also consistent with a fist?
Sure, a fist is an object.
Okay. Your Honor, at this point, I hate to do this again. May we approach?
No.
This is probably a good time. We talked about it at sidebar.
Can we do anything to fill up the jury's time for the next 10 minutes, and then we can do this?
Not without what we discussed at sidebar.
Come on up for a minute, okay? Both of you, come on up quickly.
I'll have a look, Ted. What the fuck? This keeps coming up as an error. I think it's to do with the dual stream. It's saying one using the primary URL. One stream is using primary URL. Send one stream to the.
We're still on track. We will start. I'm going to have you show up a half hour later than we normally do because
No,
expect to have
I can't.
10 minutes with the lawyers, but we see sometimes with 10 minutes naturally in the course of any case can turn into. So I don't want you to be waiting as much as you've waited today. So if you take a half an hour more to get in here, whatever time you normally meet, the code officers will tell you. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow will be a full day, and we will make every effort that it's filled with as much time here in court for you without sidebar conferences, without delays for us to have hearings. So tomorrow, plan on a full day. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Be careful again with your social media use, and we'll see you tomorrow. So Dr. LAPOSATA,
Yes.
you can step right out, you can just follow the jury, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. If you will be here, make sure you're ready to go at 9.
I'll be here. Thank you, Your Honor.
I can't get onto Facebook on my computer, Tan. I've forgotten the password.
All right, so can you argue the Commonwealth's motion that I received this morning regarding Dr. Renshaw? Can we just do that now? Okay. No, that's fine. So we'll do that first thing at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. The basis of the Commonwealth's, I've read the motion. I think the motion is clear. I'll hear you both tomorrow on it. All right. And you'll take care of the photographs whatever photographs in her report you intend to put in.
Is the court hasn't made a order yet, but it seemed like the court was leaning toward not allowing any text on the photographs.
So that was just at a quick review. I had not I just read the content, the text part for the arguments for today, the arguments that were brought up today. I wasn't anticipating everything that we heard today on this, so it took a while. I did not get to look at specifically those. But to the extent that it's hearsay, whether it considers anything about dogs, clearly the dog, things that have been excluded have to come out of the photographs. All right.
The other photos deal with gastric mucosa.
I think those have been shown, and I know the Wisniewski spots one is in evidence. The brain photographs are not coming in. The brain photographs that are different than what's already, the brain photographs in her report.
Understood.
They're-
My biggest issue is the stomach lining is a bigger issue, and then some photographs in whether it's like the car that's probably already in, things of that nature. So I'll deal with those.
So tell me what you think is more of an issue, more of what you want. So I don't think the photographs on pages 4 or 5 come in. They don't add anything and they are extremely inflammatory.
I'm not looking to enter the, I'm not looking to get those brain skull.
All right, the photos on page 6, I believe, are already in evidence. So this is,
That's a Lucas machine.
right, just a textbook photo of a Lucas machine.
Correct.
Is there an objection to that, Mr. Brennan?
No, thank you.
Okay. So do you want all of that in or just the photograph that's got color to it?
I'd actually like all of it in. She will explain what effect it has on the pancreas and stomach lining. It's in it to reduce the spots for lack of.
He's going for the
Okay.
I know what he's doing.
Page 14, I think these are all in evidence otherwise, but I would like this particular, because it's all in one spot.
Hold on one second. Okay, so one is in. Point number 1,
The Wisniewski spots can be created by rapid reperfusion, basically. So if he's been down for a long time and they quickly put up, all these fluids and bloods and what have you, and push it through really quickly, that can cause those spots in the stomach lining as well.
that was in evidence, and those 2 photographs, this is all for number 1. What was,
These are all close-ups of the same photo that is already in evidence.
okay.
The right sleeve. So I'd like to use this because it speaks to her evaluation of these particular.
All right, how does she know it's blood staining on the fabric around the puncture? I'm just curious.
The blood stain on fabric around the puncture.
Yes.
I'm assuming she's getting that from the lab. They tested it.
Okay, I don't recall testimony regarding, doesn't mean it didn't happen, I just don't recall it, so I just need to know
Super worried about that.
the source, all right?
Pull that out.
No objections to the photos. I do have an objection to the captions that go with the photos.
Okay. 13A and 13B?
Yes.
Yep, so 13B's out because of the dog bite.
For obvious reasons.
Let me see. All right. So if we keep out the blood staining, Mr. Brennan, is there an objection? Oh, puncture. What's the objection for the Commonwealth on 13A?
The opinion outward tearing. The opinion
Got it.
blood staining.
I have no issue with blood stain coming out. Outward tearing that is her opinion of what it looks like.
Okay, so we're going to have to see if she's qualified to do that, to testify to that. All right. What's the next page?
Page figure 3 in the report.
What page?
I don't have have a page number, Judge. Hold it up.
Page 5.
Page 5. It shows the cross section of the brainstem.
That's what I was saying. I didn't see how that was coming in.
I certainly don't want the one in that is installed. I would have a graphic. This is no more graphic than the supplement.
I disagree, but why does she have to use this photograph?
In furtherance of her determination of the coup injury, it supports that. I didn't put it in during that conversation.
Okay.
Otherwise,
There's no contention that coup contra coup is the cause of the brain injury, correct?
there is contention that the coup contra coup is, yes, that is the contention. I don't think there's any controversy. That's what the,
I thought that's what Dr. Wolfe testified to, no?
Consistent. I don't think there's any disagreement.
Right. So I don't know why we need this photograph.
because this shows, at least for her, this shows a bleeding of the brainstem, which talks about whether or not he's immediately incapacitated or not immediately incapacitated. which is
Okay.
an issue that Dr.
No, I understand that's an issue. Okay.
Mm. The Lucas machine is the manual, what, the automatic CPR machine. Oh shit! Sorry.
I'd like to have
Sorry.
it identified for the record.
Yes.
Part of the record.
So we'll make that part of the record. I need a clean copy of Dr. LaPosata's report and her resume for the same purpose.
And the resume.
Yes.
Yes. I'll have those two Monday.
Okay.
Just finally, the redacted version of the 34 Fairview post is not marked. Could I have that marked as an exhibit now?
Okay. There was no objection, Mr. Brennan?
This was never marked as an exhibit. That's all.
Why don't we do that right now?
Thank you.
Exhibit 224.
So I would like us to be as efficient for these jurors as possible tomorrow. I'm not suggesting that today was a waste of time. Everything we did was important, but it's very difficult for the jurors to spend so much time back there. It seems that they're just about ready to get this case, and everything that we hear now is very important. So I don't think anybody wants the jurors to tune out at this point. So let's try and keep things moving along. Mr. Jackson, how long do you expect to be with Dr. Rentschler?
Hour and a half? 2 hours? I'm being corrected. 3 hours? 4? She has a better pace than I do. I don't watch my watch when I'm directing, but maybe it's going to be a whole thing. I mean, between us and cross-examination.
All right. So I told you all the other day, I thought I might be in a position to regret giving you last Thursday off, and that's where we're at. So let's be as efficient as we can possibly be.
Promise you we are. It's a murder trial, Judge.
I understand. All right.
I have one more item when Your Honor is ready.
Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, do you expect that Dr. Rentschler will be the last witness that you call?
That's my expectation.
Okay. On rebuttal, any idea how long that will be, Mr. Brennan?
I'd like to keep it to 2 hours.
Okay. All right, that would be for everything, including Dr.
I'm sorry,
Dr. Welcher?
Dr. Welcher, and then the DNA, all those 2 witnesses. I think it should be done in less than an hour.
All right, so will Dr. Welcher be called after the DNA people?
Trying to schedule that. I expect to call him last, but it all depends on when we can get the DNA people, and Dr. Welcher will be here tomorrow or tonight, so he'll be here. So whoever's, if they're available, I'd like to get the DNA people in first. But we haven't had confirmation on this.
All right, because I told Mr. Lessie that he could excuse himself from this testimony if there were other witnesses first, so that he can prepare once he gets the discovery from Dr. Welcher.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could we understand from the Commonwealth the names of the rebuttal witnesses we're talking about?
They were in the motion, right?
Well, we heard some different things at some point today. If something happened with Dr. LaPosata, they were going to be different. We heard that at side.
Oh, okay, so the motion that I allowed was Ms. Kuhn. I believe Dr. Gillespie's name was in there,
Hartnett,
and Ms. Hartnett. Okay.
So that's the excessive scope of
What about Crosby?
The scope of the rebuttal witnesses for the Commonwealth.
Yes, I allowed the motion. Mr. Brennan says he's not calling Dr. Gillespie. Mr. Gillespie, right? Okay.
And nor Dr. Crosby, as I understand.
Or Dr. Crosby, right?
That's what I,
Yeah.
I think there's,
Sorry, I know.
well, it's important to know.
You're not calling their dog expert or your own, correct?
not calling Dr. Crosby.
Okay.
The other item, Your Honor, we want to alert you to, we will come tomorrow with a suggestion with regard to the curative instruction that was given to the court today. we're going to come tomorrow with Ness to be heard on that. So we're going to come in with that. What happened, what was discussed before, I'm not so sure.
You asked me to change it, was my recollection, Mr. Alessi.
We looked at it at lunch, Your Honor, and appreciate the opportunity to confer with you on that. I don't want to keep the staff later today, but.
And I don't want to keep the jury waiting, so file something with me and I'll take a look at it. All right. All right, so that's it. We expect to be ready to go when the jury's here tomorrow morning, probably no later than 9:15, 9:20, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll use a full day, as much of it as we can.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All rise for the court, please.
Just some scheduling, Alan. Just scheduling. That's it. So basically tomorrow, we have, hang on, tomorrow, Dr. LAPOSATA, well, they're going to do some motions in the morning because they need to decide a few last minute things. And then Dr. LAPOSATA will come back on. And then she'll have cross-examination, and then Dr. Rentschler, whether we get through all of his direct tomorrow is yet to be seen. Maybe direct and cross. And then rebuttal. Both sides have agreed not to call any more witnesses with regards to their dog experts. So I know that the defense had someone they were going to call, and the prosecution were going to call Crosby, but they said if they don't call their dog expert, then they won't call Dr. Crosby, so they've both been cancelled out. So the rebuttal witnesses are Dr. Kuhn, which is the lab tech that did the DNA testing on the swab of John's hoodie for dog DNA, where there was none. And Gillespie. I'm not sure who Gillespie is. Just the two. So, and watching Larry Foreman yesterday, apparently the defense can call a rebuttal witness as well. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. But Alessi is putting together something. He wasn't happy with the phrasing, apparently, of the directed motion for the jury with regards to Hank. And the hoodie. Yeah. So they wanted to get that done first thing in the morning, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right. Oh, wow. 6:15. Okay, yay. Woo. All right. I'll be back tomorrow. Yep, it's coming to an end. It's coming to an end. All right, my loves. Thank you again. I'm sorry about the technical shit today. I don't know what's going on. But all righty. Actually, Tan, can you just double check your streams are okay? I think it might have something to do with that for some reason. It's talking about the primary URL stream or something. It's coming up with an error message. So I don't know whether it's even. Oh, I didn't even connect. Oh, well, it can't be because I didn't connect the second half. Fuck. I'm tired. I will deal with it tomorrow. All right. Stay the fuck away from him, Brennan.
It's been 12 months since acquittal, and so much has passed us by, such as tampering with evidence and some blatant flat-out lies. I bet he wears those silky undies, the ones with that jean made of lace. So you can bring in Massachusetts, cause we all ain't got no quit. And we all know that the truth is my car is not the thing John